Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Austin Carnes, and welcome back to the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, whatever you are watching on. And in today's episode here on Zoom, I'm joined with my good friend Nicholas Brown from the Steel City Commuters podcast. And we're going to kind of discuss what is going on this summer because in a lot of my recent posts and a lot of Nick's recent posts as well, we've been saying this is the summer of grind. And I've been getting a lot of messages, a lot of DMs, a lot of calls. What exactly is the summer of grind? So in today's episode, me and Nicholas Brown is going to break down what is the summer of grind and how exactly we're going about that. So before we get into that though, Nick, thank you so much for joining me on the Zoom call. How's everything going with you today?
Good. It seems like we're in another location, even via Zoom, but we will be back together hopefully rather soon.
Yeah, I'm actually on the road again. I am at Point Park's Media Hub once more. I'm in a conference room. I think I was in here for a Steel City episode one time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because Media Hub was booked, so that was like a last minute resort. But we actually like the conference room. We potentially could be doing a conference room promo in the near future for all of these podcasts because we love the conference room, how fancy it is, how comfy the chairs are, and the lighting is
Oh
literally
yeah.
perfect.
Oh yeah, these chairs are comfy, man. I'm enjoying it. It's much better than the chair I have at home, I'm not gonna lie.
And
But yeah,
even in
no,
the
we
Media Hub too. Those chairs get a little rough after a while.
Yeah, they do get a little rough. The little blue chairs that we usually sit in. The yellow ones aren't that bad, but they're too spinny to like to have on camera. So,
And they sit low
but
too.
oh yeah, they sit really low, really really low. But yeah, no, we're here in the media hub. I'm at the conference room, as Nick just alluded to, and it's much better than the scene that I have at home. And I feel like we should talk exactly what the summer of grind is. And I feel like me being here is the perfect example of that because the summer of grind is all about taking the summer of 2025, and making it about grind, putting in the effort, putting in the hard work, putting in the dedication and time to make something out of nothing. What I mean by that is on Facebook and LinkedIn and X, I've been putting out how I've been doing 8 podcasts this week. 8 podcasts then went to nine. Nine now went to 10 with us doing this episode. 10 podcasts in one week. I've been at Point Park 5 days out of this week, editing, working a full-time job, doing a bunch of side hustles, and of course, joining Nicholas Brown on Zoom. That right there is the definition of the summer of grind. And I'm not doing that as a way to say, oh, yeah, I'm doing all this with my life. No, I'm doing this as a way to say, hey, listen, if I can do it, so can you. And I feel like there's so many students out there at Point Park, Duquesne, Pitt, Carlo, you name it, that should take this summer of grind that myself and Nicholas Brown is starting to live by and apply it to their life. Because at the end of the day, a summer is supposed to be a break. A summer is supposed to be a time to spend with family, spend with friends, get out and enjoy the sun, go to a beach, go on vacation, all that. I'm taking this summer and I'm making it a little more extreme. I'm putting in twice the work that I was putting in during the semester. So by the time that the fall comes around, we'll be better than ever. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to get my vacations. I'm still going to get my breaks. Nick, I know you're going to be going to Florida soon. I'm going to be going to Erie. So we're both going to have some time to unwind and regroup our mental health. But at the end of the day, this all these summer days, I'm not sleeping in. I'm not staying up all hours of the night. I'm not going to go out and party or drink or smoke. Like, I'm not going to do all that. I'm not going to live that lifestyle. I want to be able to grind out the work, grind out the effort. If I'm off work one day, that doesn't mean it's an off day. That means it's another day to do something else. And that right there, my friend, is the summer of grind. What's your thoughts, Nick?
This is my third episode already this week, and that's even a lot for
Yeah.
myself. I don't think I've ever crossed once because we were just doing Still City Tuesday night, Wednesday, but we've been doing a lot of bonus content. So we did one earlier in the week, and then I said we can't just end off. You even made a good point. We just can't end off on an odd number. We have to make it an even number. So we decided to do another podcast again, remote. But again, this is how we connect via Zoom, via the internet. Is you can record, take your laptop anywhere and start recording. Even though we're going to be going on vacation, I guarantee you we may find some time to record. You're probably going to be trying to do an episode from Erie. It's going to be a lot harder for me from Florida. But again, one of us is going to be on vacation and one of us is going to be trying to hold down the fort. But I think you summed it up perfectly. This is the summer of grind. This is what we want to do when we're older. I think this is what's prepping us to not only get into our careers. Yes, you might not be working long hours a day, but every day is going to be a different process, no matter where we're going to end up locally, nationally, close to home. You're going to be grinding no matter what when you have a job because you're going to be, tasked with a lot of different items, a lot of traveling, traveling from one city. If you're going to be covering sports, you're going to probably be following the Pirates or wherever you land up. If you're in finance, you're going to be following around different companies, talking with different CEOs in different states. As that's going to be this Summer of Grind is going to eventually turn into The Daily Grind. Oh, that's another podcast we can name it. The Daily Grind.
The Daily Grind. I'm surprised that name's not taken. It might be taken. I don't
Is
know.
it? Do a quick Google search.
I don't know. Do a little quick fact check here on the YouTube channel, real quick. Why not? But yeah, no, Nick, you couldn't have summed it up any better. I mean, the summer of grind is all about preparing yourself for the daily grind because once you get into the careers that we're looking to get into, you're more broadcast reporting, I'm more sports communications. So, two different fields, but eerily similar because they're both in the communications department. They're both on camera. They're both discussing topics, and they both need to have strong communication skills. And doing podcasts like this, whether it's Zoom, whether it's in the Media Hub, whether it's at home at Jagoff Studios, whether it's in person, it doesn't matter where it's at, it's all about being able to have those strong communication skills. Because guess what? If me and you can sit here on a Zoom call and discuss anything from the Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers of the world to the Donald Trump and Iran bombings of the world, or just simply me and you having a nice conversation like this, that just shows that if we can do it, we can do it on any other network or with any other people. And my friend, the summer of grind is the preparation for the daily grind.
The Daily Grind is already a business podcast. It is a weekly
Damn.
goal-driven podcast. Yes, by Kelly Johnson, motivating you on your daily grind. So even though the daily grind is taken, I don't think the summer grind is taken.
Well, I will say this. I think Kelly would endorse the ideas that we're portraying out there.
Yes, no, the summer grind, from what I understand, I don't think it's taken. It's just like different episodes named the summer grind, but officially the summer grind as a podcast is non-existent. So we may be that podcast.
Summer of grind. Go trademark it, Nick. We're gonna trademark that name.
The fall grind, the spring grind, the Point Park
The seasonal grind.
yeah, the sizzle, the chili grind.
Yeah, I don't know. But no, I wanted to kind of dive into this next topic then. So when we're talking about the summer of grind as an overall perspective, a lot of people think that's just talking about podcasting. And yes, the podcasting is a big part of it. I mean, 10 episodes in 1 week is berserk for a lot of people. It's definitely the most I've ever done in a week. And I've been doing two Jagoffs now for almost 3 years. It's going to be 3 years in August. And we've been in Steel City. We're actually fastly approaching a year coming this fall. So it's not really like podcasting is new to me. I know, Nick, you've been on camera before. You've done a lot of other stuff in your past as well. So, like, we both can easily relate to this and kind of jump right on board like it's nothing. I mean, the gears start turning and it's just a simple flow for us. But for the summer of grind, that also means putting in the hard work outside of podcasting or stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I'll let you speak from some of your personal experiences as well, whether it's been with me or just on your own. But for my sake, something that I've been doing recently has been trying to get my foot in the door in professional wrestling. Now, I have been a wrestling fan my entire life. Nick, you've known that since the day I first met you. I have always loved professional wrestling. And wrestling to me is personally my favorite sport. It's something that got me out of a dark place when I was younger. It's something that was always there for me. It was my first love in life, I like to say. And now that I'm able to stop going to shows as a fan, I mean, I still go as fans, but stop mainly going as a fan and actually going to work there, help out, set up the show, and contribute to it. Like 12-year-old Austin would laugh at you if you told him that. But 21-year-old Austin is saying, yeah, you best better believe that's the damn reality. And I've done stuff with IWC since January. I've done stuff with 880 Wrestling. Actually, later tonight, I will be going to work their summer show. I'm going to go help out behind the scenes and shadow some of their broadcast. I'm going to try and get involved with some other companies. I've been on the phone with different promoters and different video guys and different editors, and even my good friend Roger Lenhart, who is a seven-time Emmy Award-winning sports producer. He's even given me some advice on some stuff to do. So I have been just trying to get my foot in the door there and help out as much as I can. Because guess what? On a resume, that's what's going to take you down the line later in life. Being able to build a strong resume, have a strong repertoire, and have those connections. This career is all about connections. It's all about meeting the people you need to meet, shaking the hands you need to shake, and most importantly, leaving an impact on your name. If somebody can remember you by name, or at least remember your face, you're doing something right. And Nick, I think both of us can speak from experience. We've done just that.
Especially if someone says, "Oh, I know you from a podcast," or "I see you on Facebook podcasting," and that's what people want. But as you perfectly said it, in this career, you need to build the connections because later down the road, you may need those connections to get your foot in the door, get a position at a local company. Yes, we're in like the same business, but some people also, I think this is a great podcast to bring this up on this bonus content, is some people think that we're competing with ourselves. We're not really competing with ourselves. Yes, we're both in broadcasting, but we've gone in different routes. You're going the sports way, and I'm going the more finance/reporting way. We may eventually cross down the line, and that's perfectly fine. We may never cross down the line. But again, podcasting is always something we're going to be able to do together because of the connections that we built, because of the interviews that we built. Just because we're coming from two different podcasts doesn't mean we're eventually going to intertwine them podcasts. And we're doing a lot of crossover content with different guests possibly coming up and our careers. We're eventually able to put that on our resume and show the people and show our employers what we've been able to do during the summer when everybody else is resting and relaxing. We're out there grinding. We're out there making the interviews. We're out there asking the important questions, doing our research. And it's very important that when you interview someone, you come around with a lot of background information. You know who they are, you know their experience, you know that the field they're in. So when you ask a question, you're just not throwing a curveball to them.
Exactly. And I'm not going to spoil the guest that I'm interviewing today, actually. But like I said, this is the ninth of 10 podcasts. I still got one more literally an hour after we're done on this Zoom call. And the entire bus ride here into the city, it's not like I was sitting there listening to music or relaxing or whatever. I mean, I probably should have. But no, I was doing my research on the guest. I was trying to figure out some more background information, preparing some questions, getting myself ready, getting myself in that groove. And I'm more than ready to be prepared. If he walked in the door right now behind me, I mean, I'd be a little scared on why he's so early, but in all seriousness, I'd be ready to go for the interview. I'd be like, why the hell are you here? But hey, we're going to do this interview and I'm ready to go just like that. Flip the switch. And Nick, feel like you brought up such a great point there. Preparation is key. You got to be prepared. You got to know what the guest wants to say. You want to know how the guest is going to flow. You want to know if you're going to be able to relate to them or not, if you're going to have to reel them back in, how crazy they are, how funny they are, how laid back they are, how monotone they are. And Nick, I'm going to bring up the guest now from Two Jagoffs. We did a whole episode on it on this YouTube channel, actually discussing all the guests I had on up to that point. Well, since that episode, we've had politicians on, we've had student athletes on, we had regular students on, we've had NFL players on, which is crazy, broadcasters, reporters, you name it. We've had so many different people from so many different backgrounds on, and you can kind of see that throughout the interviews. And I'll pass this over to you to get your thoughts on it from a viewer perspective. But myself in that interviewer role, I have to adapt to different surroundings. Yeah, I can still be myself in every interview, but I can't talk the same way to a Tyler Palco than I would to a Bill Hillgrove. And I can't talk the same way to a Councilwoman Teresa Cale Smith than I would to a Sam Bigham or to a Devontae Dean or to a Cade Warner. You got to adapt on the fly. Or Kyle Archer even. My goodness, that man has so much energy. You got to be able to adapt on the fly. And it's all about being able to do your research and being prepared.
Yes. And sometimes it's with or without notes. I know we've gone from a format where we would have beginning of Still City, you would see tons of evidence, tons of papers. Now we're either bringing the notebook or we're just trying to think of things off the top of our head. If you can remember little stats and different items that are engaging, that means you've done your research well enough to at least get that off the fly. If you're able to rattle off market facts or sports facts off the top of your head, you're doing your research. And I think when you adapt to whoever you're interviewing, whoever that may be, you have to adapt in the sense of what you're going to talk about, because if they go in a whole different direction, you have to be able to steer and get that interview where you want it to be. If they wanted to go down path A and you wanted to be on path B, you have to kind of intertwine path A or path B and just go right to where path A goes. You kind of have to be able to adapt on the fly. You have to kind of think of questions on the fly. Yes, you could come in with this whole interview prepared, a whole script ready to go. But at the same time, you have to be able to get off the script. You want to make the conversation engaging as possible. You want to make the eye contact. You just can't stare off into the middle of space and you don't even remember what the person even said that you're interviewing. You have to remember what's going on. You kind of have to touch on all the different topics in this 40, 50 minutes. Typically, we do longer form interviews, Still City and Two Jagoffs. But if you're in the TV industry, you only get 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes max, and you kind of have to condense everything into one.
And that's a great point you brought up, because this is why I hate watching mainstream media interviews, and I prefer to watch content creators or podcasts doing interviews. And I mean, we can relate that to the presidential election from this past year. Look at what Donald Trump did. Whether you love him or whether you hate him, political views aside, he did the right thing by going on many different podcasts, by being interviewed by so many different people from so many different backgrounds. I mean, he went on Theo Vaughn, for goodness sakes. And Theo Vaughn is a goofball. He also did Joe Rogan, and I'm going to bring up Joe Rogan for a second. Again, politics aside, opinions aside on him, does such a good job at being conversational. And that's something that I try to replicate with some of my interview styles. Yeah, I don't ask the same questions Rogan asks, because some of them are a little crazy, but just the conversational flow that he has. He makes every guest feel welcome. He's engaging with them, and that's what you want your guest to feel like. You want them to feel like they're important. You want them to be able to share their story and be comfortable with it. You don't want to get the basic answers that you'll get in the media from like an MSNBC or a Fox News or CNN. Again, they're all different within their political views, but they're all asking the same questions. And guess what? They're all going to get the same answers because they have that time crunch where they have to try and squeeze everything into a certain time limit. With these podcasts, though, you see them go on from anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours. And again, that's because you have the time to be open and to be yourselves. And that's why I love Steel City and Two Jagoff so much, because myself and you, Nick, we get to be ourselves. We get to be open about it. We get to talk about sports. We get to talk about politics, our day-to-day lives. Hell, I get to talk about my side hustles at wrestling, and you get to talk about bingo. You can't do that on NBC.
No, you'd be axed.
You'd be axed immediately. My
10 to
gosh.
15. I mean, some of the interviews, we don't even get to half the questions, and we're 25, 30 minutes in because we're having these long form discussions. You want to have an engaging conversation. You want to keep the audience engaged. And, you always ask me on every Sunday after a new interview drops, because that's what literally Two Jagoffs is literally every Sunday is interview Sunday. Is you ask as soon as the interview and I'm done listening, were you engaged? Do you have any quotes from it? And if I'm not writing down any quotes, that doesn't necessarily mean the interviewer did anything wrong. It's the person you were interviewing did something wrong. They really weren't engaged. They were just trying to give simple answers. When you want to have a decent interview and you want to have it go viral, you want to have it a conversation based. You want to make it flow. You want to have quotes to remember off the fly, and you want to be engaged as possible. You want to make sure that these guests feel welcomed and they want to come back. And a lot of the times you see some people on TV, they're on once and then they never appear again. Maybe that's because of management, maybe because they just don't feel comfortable. But in podcasting, you want to have your guest who you're interviewing come back as often as possible.
No, I couldn't agree more with that. And I mean, that brings up a good point too, relating to the whole summer of grind thing. These interviews that we've been doing over the summer, and I know Steel City is going to start doing some more as well, and you're going to hop in and get involved with them as well, Nick. But if you've noticed from these interviews, I've always asked you about constructive criticism. And I feel like a lot of people, especially in our field nowadays, are allergic to it. And what I mean by that is some people can't take the criticism. Some people can't take the feedback because they feel like they're being attacked. They feel like they're being judged, or they feel like they're being questioned. And I have the thickest skin you can imagine, Nick. You can say whatever you want to me, and I'm not gonna bat an eye towards it. And that's what we need to have in this career. You can't get offended easily. You can't get overwhelmed. You can't get anxiety. Yeah, you can feel a certain way. Yeah, you can still have feelings. But if I'm gonna sit up here and say, "Oh, Nick, I don't believe you did that good of a job with that interview. I feel like you could have did this, this, and this, and build on this." Yeah, it might sound a little harsh at first, but at the end of the day, you're just giving me feedback, or I'm giving you feedback on how to make yourself stronger. And that is why every single Sunday after you listen to an interview, I say, hey, call me as soon as you can. Give me your thoughts. Tell me what I did. Tell me what the guest did. And I take your advice, just like I take my dad's advice when my dad listens to it, and my buddy's advice, just because I want to make myself a better interviewer and I want to welcome guests more. And I think we speak for the both of us when I say it made both of us stronger as podcasters, as voices in the media, and just in our careers in general.
I'll admit, even when we're together, I see you looking at me like, okay, let's go, wrap it up. Let's like talk. And I even see you hinting too because I try and look at the camera, but also when you have an interview, you try, and how the Media Hub and how we set it up is you want to actually try and look at that person. You want to try and make that eye contact. And I think you kind of demonstrated that with Andrew Palace is, yes, you want to look at the camera, but you also want to be looking at the guests to look at their emotions, because I think emotions tell it all. When we're together, we like to ramble on for hours, days, minutes, years, and I can see you out of the corner of my eyes. I'm looking at the camera like, okay, wrap it up. Like, look at the time. Like, let's go, move on. And that's the constructive feedback that we both give to each other. And people think that it's going to tear us down. It makes you stronger. The more feedback that you get, the better. If someone doesn't have any feedback, you're never going to improve whatsoever. You need the feedback. No matter if you're hosting a show, anchoring a show, being a reporter on TV, on the ground, you want to get that feedback from bosses, from people watching, from your viewers, from your coworkers, because you want to be the best. And to be the best, you have to give the best. And not to give the best, you have to get the feedback. And it's like a chain of commands that it starts from how you prepare yourself to maybe interviewing to the questions, and then the feedback is like the last thing that has to go right. Is you have to get feedback no matter if you want it or not. Feedback is literally the most important part of this process.
Exactly. And here's the thing too. I've been doing the podcast for about 3 years now. Add on Steel City, add on the radio show, add on Inside the Ring, and add on all the other guest appearances I made on other people's platforms. what I've learned from it and with working with so many different people and discussing topics with so many different people from the sports to the politics to just day-to-day life and Point Park in general, what I've learned is the people that get offended by the constructive criticism are typically the ones that don't last too long. Because I've worked with people where I would try and give feedback and they would get offended by it. And I would be like, well, wait a minute. I'm just simply trying to extend an arm and say, hey, I've been there. I made that mistake. Don't do it so you don't make the same mistake I made. Or, hey, I really like what you're doing here. Keep doing that because that right there is getting you engagement. That right there is getting you some views, is getting you some traction. And Nick, again, like you summed it up perfectly. If you say something to me or I say something to you, we're not going to get offended. We're not going to bat an eye towards it. We're going to take that to heart and be like, yeah, you know what? He is right. Maybe I should wrap it up a little quicker. You're like, you know what? Maybe I should have asked that question a little bit differently. Maybe I should have made eye contact when I was talking to this guest. That right there is what makes us better as interviewers, as podcasters, as influencers, as whatever you want to sum it up to be. And I want to relate this back to Summer of Grind for a second, too. Steel City Commuters is only 24 episodes in as of this recording. 24 episodes, and we've already had 2 different guests. We have 4 more lined up over the coming summer. And I know we'll probably get much more once we get into the semester. And I don't want to break the news here, but let's just say Steel City is even negotiating doing a massive event right around the school year. And that's still in negotiations. It's still up in the air. We'll discuss more about that when that time comes. But again, that just shows right there that us putting ourselves out there, showing that we're grinding, showing that we care, showing that we want to make this into something is what the top executives of these top businesses and these companies want. They want to see people that's dedicated. They want to see people that's committed. They want to see people that put in that grind. And again, me showing up to Point Park 5 days a week over the summer is a little ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie. I should probably stay home in the AC where it's a little nicer. But that's just me putting myself out there. And Nick, you hopping on a Zoom call with me 3 different times this week when you have other stuff you have to worry about. I know you have a job. You have some outside activities that you like to attend to. That just shows right there that you care and that you want to make it eventually down the line. And my advice to so many people out there, because I know there's going to be some of our fellow peers at Point Park listening to this, please put yourself out there. Talk to these people. Reach out on LinkedIn. Reach out on X. The worst they're going to say is no. The amount of times that I've got said no is crazy. I could rack it up like Halloween candy. I've gotten told no so many damn times. But at the end of the day, it's the yeses that matter. And the more yeses that you get, the more yeses you're going to get down the line because those yeses are going to turn into people saying, hey, I actually talked to that kid over there. He has something special. You should definitely talk to them. Word gets around quick. Once you put your name out there, it spreads like wildfire. It's your choice whether you want to make it a positive or a negative impact.
Especially LinkedIn. Just because I connect with someone I don't know doesn't eventually mean I'm not going to need them. And once I connect with one person, all their connections are going to see I connected and just the chain of commands. And I think you do make a good point is even if you reach out and say, hey, can you interview? I want to do an interview. Can you meet in person? Can we meet via Zoom? The worst thing they can say is no. And if they say yes, that's just another interview you can put on your resume and you can be stronger at. You can get the feedback that you need. You can potentially explore a different path for interview. We try and interview and we try and keep the same interview style, but that doesn't necessarily mean we won't change the interview style, how we're going to ask our questions, who's going to always do the intro. I always leave it up to you for Steel Cities. Go ahead, do the intro. You know the intro and keep it sweet. I'll start off the interview. That's the process that we like. We keep the same process. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. It already works. We're going to keep it. There's some podcasters that, have an intro and then they say later down the line, you know what, let's change our picture. Let's change the style. Let's, change it up a little bit. That's what viewers don't want. If nobody's complaining, don't change it.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, speaking from experience from Two Jagoffs as well, we've had the same name for the 3 years that we've done it. We did change the logo once because the first logo we made was simply like, it took me 5 minutes on my movie. It was a pretty crappy logo, I'm not going to lie. But once we started to adapt and we started to really put it into it, I have no plans of changing the logo. I have no plans of changing the name. And that's actually some feedback I've gotten for some people. And again, I didn't take it to heart, but one of the biggest critiques I've always gotten was, hey, the Two Jagoffs name, Jagoff can kind of be a slur in some people's eyes. Like, don't you think you should probably change that? Doesn't really seem too professional. And my response to that is, well, if it's as offensive as you say it is, I don't think I would have had 3 politicians and Bill Hillgrove and Rob King and Robbie Inspikowski and all these other notable names on the podcast. They didn't think it was a slur. They didn't think it was a curse word. They didn't think it was offensive. So why should I listen to somebody that has no repertoire versus that? Again, that's not me taking it to heart. That's me taking their feedback and saying, you know what? I don't need it. And again, you don't need to take everybody's feedback. Sometimes people give you BS feedback. That's a prime example of it because
They
I
sugarcoat it.
recognize that they're sugarcoated. Exactly. Now, if it was like, oh, I don't know, two damn jagoffs, maybe that would be a bit of a different one. Or two effing jagoffs. Like, I can see why people would be offended with that because that is a much more gruesome word versus jagoff, which is a Pittsburgh name, which, again, some people actually like the jagoff term. Some people like to be called it, which it gives me an excuse to call people a jagoff, Nick. It's actually pretty funny. But in all seriousness, that is the kind of feedback that you need to take and recognize whether or not you can apply it or whether you can't apply it. Andrew Palace, I'm glad you brought up that name. He stayed back an hour and a half after the interview to give me advice on the business, to give me advice on wrestling, and just life in general. I've applied about 90% of what he said because I needed that. I've applied a lot of the advice that I've gotten from these interviews because guess what? Most of the time, actually almost every time that I've done an interview, it's not like cameras are off and they leave right away. They stay back about another half hour to an hour just to talk, just to get to know me, to say, hey, this was really fun. We should definitely do this again down the line. Some of my best interviews said that, even some of my worst said that. And that's because of the impact you make. And making that impact on those people is what brings in others. See, I already have good connections. My dad is a great connection. I know, I mean, it's my dad. I kind of already forced to be connected with him because of life. But having my dad in my life, he has brought me so many different connections. Having you in my life, Nick, you have brought me connections. Our buddy LK even brought us connections. Kevin, as crazy as Kevin is, he even has connections. And building those small connections first with the people you love and you know from back at home is what expands your horizon to be able to make connections with people in the real world. I've connected with people in Kansas City. I've connected with people in Miami, LA, New York. And Nick, you could speak from the same as well with your following on X and your following on LinkedIn. You're able to connect with those people. You're able to talk with those people, get advice from those people. And that right there is what really makes the summer of grind possible. Talking to those people when it doesn't matter most, because when it does matter most, they'll know that you were already there to begin with.
And I think too, when we make these connections and how we branch off of each other also goes a long way. Lucas is going to, LK, hell with Lucas at this point. LK is
Yeah,
going to
screw
be,
Lucas. It's okay.
LK. LK is going to be a freshman at Point Park. Just
Yes.
because he's a freshman at Point Park doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have the connections. He just did a great interview that's going to be coming out in a few weeks on two Jagoffs that is going to build his career at Point Park and branch off of that. Us two are going to be in a class together at Point Park and we're going to branch off of that. We have your connections and we're going to branch off of them connections. You have my connections and we're going to branch off of them. Eventually, all of our connections are going to be together at one point, and we're all going to be together on a podcast once again, and we're going to be able to branch off of each other because I've adapted to a lot of your interview styles and your techniques and how to shorten my questions. You've adapted to my technique style. LK is starting to adapt to our style, and we're starting to adapt to his style. Dress like LK, go wear pants in 90-degree weather and just say, literally, that's like adapting to LK style. And the LK style is eventually going to adapt to the NB and AC style. These styles are important because other people notice it immediately. They instantly
Yes.
know if you're picking up on someone, if you're shadowing someone, how you're going to be towards someone. If an interview goes exactly the way you want it to be, you've done your job. If you come off an interview hot-headed, not convinced that you did the job, there's always room for improvement, and that's when things start to go off the rail.
100%. And that right there, my friend, is why the summer of grind is so important. Being able to put yourself out there, make those connections, not easily be offended, and work through the trials and tribulations is what's really going to take you over the top. I feel like a good way to wrap up this small little mini bonus episode that we had with our final 10 minutes that we have remaining here on Zoom is talking about this. What exactly so far, Nick, has been your favorite part of the summer grind? Because at first, I always joked around saying, "Let me rush the summer. Let's get through this. I hate the heat," and that's true. I do hate the heat. I want it to be winter already. I can't do 90-degree days anymore. This is like the fifth 90-degree day in a row now, and it's driving me up a wall. But in all seriousness, I do actually want the summer to last because that gives me more days to be able to put more content out. It gives me more days to work on projects. It gives me more days to travel to wrestling events, to travel to sporting events. I'll be doing a wiffle ball tournament in a couple weeks. Who would have thought I'd be doing that? That's because of the connections you make. So I want to ask you this, Nick. What has been so far your favorite part of the summer grind? It could be something that you've done. It could be something that I've done, we've done. I really don't care. I want to know what the summer of grind means to you.
More
And
episodes,
I'll give
more
you mine.
content. Third episode this week, and probably not done. I wouldn't be surprised if we recorded something else Saturday, Sunday next week before Still City, and building so-called a potential panel and different events, and the way we can kind of connect instantly and say, okay, let's go to dinner. Because even when we're at dinner, we're already trying to plan what's going to be ahead, what we're going to be talking about in the coming weeks, and in interviews, trying to plan out and trying to critique interviews and just trying to get together with LK, prepping him to be a freshman at Point Park, trying to finalize everything for the school year. Because pretty soon, August 25th is going to be here before we know it. And then we're going to look back and say, look what we accomplished this summer. Nobody else could top that.
Of course, of course. No, I couldn't agree more with you there, my friend. And I'll tell you what, the summer of grind to me in conclusion of this episode means the world. Because listen, I am blessed to have, and I'm gonna get sentimental here for a second. I'm blessed to have two supportive parents, a supportive sister, and a supportive friend group around me. I've always kept my inner circle small. I was the quiet kid in high school. I didn't have many friends. A lot of people that's actually probably following me right now on social media is probably like, what the hell? The kid that used to wear wrestling t-shirts and mix up a deck of cards in the back of the classroom is doing a Zoom call with a man named Nick Brown from New Kensington. What the hell happened? And I'll tell you this right now, me being able to have that supportive background, both a loving mother, a loving father, and a loving sister named Isabella, a best friend in Kevin Home who's been there for me since day one, Lucas Coons, who I've known since day one, kind of drifted apart, but has came back into my life since and has helped me in more ways than I can imagine. And meeting you, Nick, at Point Park has been one of the biggest assists as well. Having that friend group, and I guess you can throw out Mr. Jack Dean too. Why not? All right, Mr. Jack Dean. You can say and Ollie. Why not? We'll throw out those two names too. They've been there as well. They've always supported us. But that right there, that small friend group allowed me to expand my portfolio and expand myself to be able to meet a Bill Hillgrove and have him recognize me at the casino still means the world to me. Josh Getzoff, Kyle Archer, Rob King, Ince Mikowski. I mean, you know, there's even people that hasn't even been on the podcast that I've met. Travis Williams, the president of the Pittsburgh Pirates, knows me. That's crazy. I'm going to be taking a phone call with him in a couple weeks, and that's just because he wants to meet me. He wants to know who I am. He wants to know what I'm doing. Something I told you on the phone, Nick. Corey Graves from the WWE supposedly knows who I am. That's one of my idols right there. That's someone that I look up to, actually. That's someone that I try and replicate my professional wrestling style off of because he's a Pittsburgh guy. I'm a Pittsburgh guy. There's that connection right there. We crossed paths in the past before, but it was brief. So the fact that he knows me just from social media shows that we're doing something right. Shows that the promos are helping, shows that the episodes are helping, shows that the LinkedIn post X. And I got to give you credit, Nick. I'm going to be sentimental towards you for a second. Thank you so much for helping me out because you're the one that gave me all the advice on expanding myself on social media. I was conservative with it. I only had Instagram and kind of started on Facebook. And you said, no, Austin, you need to post to Facebook. You need to get X. You need to fix your LinkedIn accounts. You need to do all this now because guess what? Those people are going to see this. And if they see that you're lacking on that, they're going to think you're lacking in that career. And guess what? I touched that up. And Nick, you could not be more than correct on that because once I built those strong things, look at the connections, look at the friends, look at the requests now. They are through the roof. So I just want to say thank you for a second because thank you so much for that. That means the world to me. And thank you to everybody else who has supported me.
I was going to say LinkedIn is a big part of this process, especially in the broadcasting career, because they want to see the experience you have. They want to see the previous employers that you have, because once you end up at one employer, doesn't mean you're done. You're eventually going to be job hopping, and eventually your career is going to be built on every job that you have, because don't worry, all the different bosses talk with each other. Even though some people say that all the stations in Pittsburgh hate each other, everyone talks and the word gets out fast. I think we even said that earlier in the episode, is that your sentimental, your legacy, what you do every day is built upon yourself, but also gets spread upon yourself fast. One bad move can end your career instantly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Nick, I thank you again so much. I thank everybody again out there so much for all the support and help. And I'll tell you this right now, the summer of grind, even though it is June 27th, as of this recording, June 28th, when I actually posted on a Saturday afternoon, I'm here to tell you right now that the summer of grind is just beginning. We still got all of July. We still got all of August ahead. I know you're rolling your eyes over there, damn it, but it's going to be a fun summer that we are going to be putting out content. I'm going to make a Facebook, LinkedIn, X post at the end of the summer. I want to add up how many podcasts, how many hours, how many promos, and how many wrestling events I've done at the end of the summer. I think it's going to be through the roof. As Donald Trump once said, it's going to be massive. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be mega.
It's going to be mega. It is going to be mega, not MAGA, mega.
Mega. Do
Well,
Zoom,
Nick,
Zoom 40 times, probably 100 at this point.
Probably, probably. But Nick, what is your final words that you would like to leave with the listeners out there? What do you overall think about the Summer of Grind and wrapping this up?
We're just getting started. This podcast isn't going anywhere.
Not at all, not at all. Well, Nicholas, thank you so much for joining me here on Zoom as always, and thank you everybody so much for tuning in. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you drop a like, leave a subscribe, and do whatever you may do in the comment section down below. We'd love your feedback. And then
We're
if you're
waiting for
listening
the
on
other
Facebook,
Jagoff to appear. As Ince Mikowski would say, where's the other Jagoff?
yeah, where's the other Jaguar at? Where's Lucas at? Lucas, leave a comment down below if you're listening. And thank you all so much for tuning in on Facebook as well. We didn't forget about you either. Stay tuned for brand new episodes of Two Jagoffs and Steel City every single week here on YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. Until next time, I will see you all later on. Peace.